Imagine stepping off a plane in a totally foreign country. You've been traveling for hours.
Right, your central nervous system is just completely frayed at that point.
Oh, totally frayed. You step out of the terminal and the air just hits you. It's thick and heavy and super humid.
You're exhausted.
Exactly. You're exhausted. And the very first interaction you have, literally within hours of arriving at your guest house, is a near scam.
Oh man, the worst way to start.
It really is. A guy on a motorbike offers you this, really cheap tour. You hop on, and suddenly you realize he's taking you to a dark, uncomfortable, highly sketchy prostitution area.
So you're immediately in danger.
Right. You have to pivot immediately, demand to be let off, and navigate your way back just to stay safe. Your guard is all the way up.
Pure survival mode.
Yeah, every stranger is a potential threat at that point. But then, get this. Exactly 3 weeks later, you are leaving that exact same country.
Okay.
And you aren't leaving in some sterile, anonymous airport taxi. You're being escorted by a convoy of locals on motorbikes.
Wow. Wait, seriously?
Seriously. People you didn't even know existed 21 days ago are riding you all the way to the international departures entrance. And it's out of pure, unadulterated platonic love.
That is quite the character arc, I have to say. Going from viewing the environment as entirely hostile to being completely embraced by it.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that incredible transformation is exactly what we're unpacking today.
I'm really excited for this one.
Me too. So in this deep dive, we have our hands on a meticulously detailed, deeply personal travel journal. It spans from November 25th to December 16th.
A very specific window of time.
Yeah, exactly. We're tracking a solo traveler's journey from Bali to Lombok and back again.
Yeah.
But we aren't just looking at the geography here.
Right. It's way more than just an itinerary.
Totally. We're looking at the specific people met along the way, the exact dates, the chronological route, and the surprisingly profound conversations that took place.
Which is fascinating. Because think about how you act at your local grocery store back home.
Oh, I avoid everyone.
Exactly. You probably avoid eye contact, right? You put your headphones in, you just want to get your stuff and leave.
Yeah, pretty much.
But put you on a bumpy ferry in Indonesia, and suddenly you are sharing your deepest childhood traumas with a total stranger.
It's so true. Why does that happen?
Well, what's fascinating here is the compression of time. When you are traveling solo, the standard social dynamics completely shift.
They really do.
Friendships that might take years to form in your normal routine life back home are compressed into hours.
Because you're just experiencing so much together so fast.
Exactly. You share a meal, you share a perilous scooter ride over unpaved roads, and suddenly you are bonded. The timeline of this trip acts as a sociological pressure cooker.
A pressure cooker. I love that. Okay, so let's unpack this, starting right at the genesis of the trip. November 25th.
The arrival.
Right. The traveler arrives in Kuta, Bali, and checks into the Fora guest house. The sensory details in the journal right off the bat are just intense.
What kind details?
Like dogs barking everywhere in the sticky night air. Eating a really simple chicken dish for the first meal. And then the scam happened.
Right, the motorbike guy.
Yeah, a local motorbike driver offers a quick tour of Kuta's Club Street for 50,000 rupiah. It sounds like a harmless introduction to the city,
It's totally normal.
But instead, the driver reroutes to a very strange, uncomfortable prostitution district.
And we have to look at the mechanics of why these specific scams happen on day one. It isn't just bad luck.
You don't think so?
Not at all. Scammers in transit hubs are experts at reading the physical language of cognitive overload.
Cognitive overload. Explain that.
Well, when you arrive in a new country, your brain is processing a new climate, a new currency exchange rate, unfamiliar traffic patterns, and a foreign language.
Your brain is just frying.
Yes. Your working memory is maxed out. You literally do not have the cognitive bandwidth to pick up on micro expressions of deceit. The scammer knows this.
So it's not just the traveler being naive, right? It's biology.
Precisely. It's an exploitation of temporary cognitive impairment caused by travel fatigue.
That is so wild to think about.
But notice the traveler's immediate reaction here. There is no polite hesitation, which is what usually traps people.
Right. They didn't just go along with it to be nice.
Exactly. They immediately recognize the geographical anomaly, say, this is not where I wanted to go, and leave.
Which takes guts.
It does. It's a harsh reminder of the vulnerability of the solo traveler. Your physical safety is entirely dependent on your situational awareness.
Yeah. And when the guest house owner later confirms it was a known scam, it sets the traveler's baseline to, high alert.
Understandably so.
But here's where it gets really interesting. That high alert doesn't paralyze them.
Which is great.
The very next day, November 26th, the traveler shakes it off, moves down the coast to Uluwatu, staying at Le Chalet, and meets this guy, Andrew.
Andrew the yachtsman.
Yes, Andrew is this British guy who has spent 30 years painting and maintaining luxury super yachts. He is like the polar opposite of the scammer.
A totally different vibe.
Completely. He casually drops a warning about a massive incoming hurricane and then goes out of his way to help the traveler figure out how to operate a rented motorbike.
That's super helpful. Motorbikes there can be tricky.
Yeah, he notices the traveler is a bit inexperienced with the bike and offers this very kind, fatherly advice to stay safe on the roads.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Andrew represents a very specific sociological pillar of the backpacking community.
Oh, what's that?
The veteran of the road archetype. He's been out in the world for 3 decades. He possesses practical, tactile wisdom.
Like knowing about hurricanes and engines.
Exactly. He understands weather patterns, he understands combustion engines, and he passes that down to the newer traveler.
Sort of like a mentoring thing.
It's an informal, non-hierarchical mentorship that happens constantly in communal travel spaces. You don't get that in a luxury resort. You get that in guest houses.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it actually gives our traveler the confidence to hit the road.
Where do they go?
They drive 50 minutes to Uluwatu Temple, see these incredible sheer cliffs, and then head down to Padang Padang Beach.
Beautiful spot.
It is. But the journal notes that the ocean here is no joke. The traveler swims out into some of the roughest, most violent waves they've ever experienced.
That sounds dangerous.
It was. But while out there, battling the surf, they meet Luca and Makoni, 2 teenagers from Arizona.
In the middle of the rough waves.
Literally in the water. And I want you to keep those names in mind, listener, because the traveler's path is going to cross with Makoni again in a way that defies all statistical logic.
I love those travel coincidences. But really, the ocean here is acting as a testing ground.
How so?
The traveler notes in the journal that they are a swimming instructor from Korea. This is crucial.
Right, they have real skills.
Exactly. When you strip away your corporate job title back home, your physical competencies become your primary identity.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, the ability to navigate rough water safely is a highly valuable skill in a coastal environment.
Which actually explains why, back in Kuta, local lifeguards were literally asking this traveler to teach them swimming techniques.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
I know, right? Okay, so fast forward to November 27th. The traveler changes environments again, moving to Sanur and checking into the Abian Dharma Hotel.
Sanur has a very different vibe from Kuta or Uluwatu.
It totally does. He has a different demographic. It attracts more retirees. It's quieter. The pace is just slower.
Good place to decompress.
Yeah. And at the hotel pool, the traveler strikes up a conversation with an elderly Australian woman. And this is where the conversations transition from survival logistics to, like, deep life philosophy.
I love those pool conversations. Who was she?
She tells the traveler she used to be a professional salsa dancer and has been coming to Bali since the 1970s.
Oh, wow. I want to pause on the historical gravity of that for a second.
Yeah, it's a huge time gap.
The traveler is navigating modern Bali, using digital toll cards, checking apps for ferry times, and looking at the massive modern icon mall.
Right, it's super developed now.
But this woman remembers a Bali of pure, raw infrastructure creation. She talks about how back in the 70s, people were literally traveling while the locals were laying the very dirt and asphalt roads they were walking on.
It's an incredible contrast.
Yes.
And their conversation just spans everything.
What did they talk about?
They talk about world travel, they dive into astrology, and she shares her realization that a city like Seoul was just fundamentally too cold for her tropical soul.
It really highlights how travel creates spaces for intergenerational dialogue that simply do not exist back home.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, think about it. In a standard Western city, a young Korean swimming instructor and an elderly Australian ex-salsa dancer do not have a natural venue to sit and discuss astrology for 3 hours.
Never. It would literally never happen.
The societal architecture keeps them apart. But the hotel pool in a foreign country dismantles that architecture entirely.
And that dismantling happens rapidly because that very same evening, November 27th, the traveler goes to a night market in Sanur and meets Fersi.
Fersi. Who is Fersi?
Fersi is an Egyptian mechanical engineer currently living in Malaysia. Now, they meet right at sunset. They rent bikes and ride along the coastline together.
Sounds idyllic.
It does. They go for a swim. And then they do something that I find absolutely wild.
What's that?
They go to a local tour company to ask about a trip to the neighboring island, Nusa Penida.
Hmm?
The company quotes them 600,000 rupiah,
which is pretty steep.
Right. So the traveler immediately pulls out the Klook app, which, is a massive travel booking app in Asia, and finds the exact same trip for 150,000 rupiah for 2 people.
That is a massive discount.
Huge. And right there, on the spot, they instantly book a multi-day island trip together for the very next morning.
That is just no affairment. It is the ultimate spontaneous commitment. They have known each other for maybe 3 hours.
Right. So I have to challenge this. I want to push back on this romanticization of travel trust.
Go for it.
Why on earth do we trust strangers so implicitly when we travel? Is it actually safe, or is it just reckless?
That's the million-dollar question.
Think about your life back home. If you met a guy at a local food court at 7 p.m., would you agree to go on a 3-day boat and island expedition with him at 9 a.m. the next morning?
Definitely not.
Absolutely not. It sounds like the premise of a true crime documentary. But on the road, it is standard operating procedure. Why?
It's a very valid skepticism. But we have to look at the architecture of trust in what we call a liminal space.
Liminal spaces, like transitional areas.
Exactly. Transitional environments, airports, hostels, foreign islands. When you are both far from home, you share a baseline of vulnerability.
Because you're both out of your element.
Right. You are both navigating foreign currency, foreign languages, and foreign logistics. That shared vulnerability strips away the usual social armor.
You kind of need each other.
Yes. Furthermore, you don't have your usual social safety nets. Your friends, your family, your HR department, they aren't there. So your brain is forced to rely heavily on primal intuition.
So you're just going on gut feeling.
Yes, and the shared goal of surviving and enjoying the trip aligns your incentives instantly.
Okay, I see the logic.
Yeah.
And their intuition actually pays off, but definitely not without some serious, literal bumps in the road.
I can imagine.
On November 28th, they take the boat to Nusa Penida. They get off the boat and rent a massive motorbike, costing 330,000 rupiah for 3 days, from an older local woman.
A big bike for those roads is smart.
And they absolutely need the horsepower, because the roads to places like Diamond Beach are notoriously punishing.
Oh, Nusa Penida roads are legendary for being awful.
Yeah, and the physical environment instantly tests the bond they just formed. Fersi, the mechanical engineer, wants to drive,
Naturally.
but he's taking it overly cautiously. He's not going over 40 kilometers an hour on these open, undulating roads.
Which is actually dangerous on steep hills.
Exactly. The traveler realizes they won't make it up the hills and has to step in, telling him to keep it at least at 35 minimum just to maintain momentum.
So there's immediate friction.
Yeah. And picture this. They are literally balancing Fersi's suitcase under the bike between the driver's legs while Fersi is wearing a heavy backpack.
Oh my goodness, that sounds incredibly unstable.
It requires immense physical coordination and trust between 2 people who met 12 hours prior.
It really is an exercise in joint problem solving under physical duress.
And the environment is completely unforgiving. They finally get to Atuh Beach, and the waves are so fierce that even though the traveler is wearing professional diving fins, it's a massive struggle just to move.
The ocean there is no joke.
Later on, they meet a local snorkeling coordinator named Jaya, and Jaya points to a spot in the water and tells them that a lifeguard boat tied up right there was completely destroyed.
Destroyed.
Smashed to pieces by the waves just the day before.
Wow, which perfectly illustrates the illusion of safety in these tropical paradises.
Yeah, you see a postcard and think it's all calm.
Exactly. You look at a postcard of Nusa Penida, and you see azure water and white sand. You think relaxation. But the kinetic energy of the ocean there is lethal. The environment demands absolute respect.
But juxtaposed against that lethal danger is this overwhelming, grounding local warmth.
What happened?
That night, the traveler and Fersi get caught in a torrential downpour. They are dodging monkeys on the road in the pitch black, soaked to the bone.
Sounds miserable.
It was. They finally arrive at the Galaxy Hotel. The Muslim owner sees them, brings them a tray of hot rice, drinks, and what the traveler specifically journals as the best banana I've ever eaten.
I love that detail. Hunger is definitely the best seasoning.
Totally.
But beyond that, it's the psychological relief of sanctuary. After battling the elements and the anxiety of the road, that simple act of hospitality completely resets their nervous systems.
And that reset leads to a moment of genuine, albeit tense, honesty the very next day.
Oh, conflict.
Kind of. On November 29th, they go to Crystal Bay. Fersi rents snorkeling gear, and our traveler steps back into their role as a swimming coach.
Okay, good to have a pro around.
But Fersi keeps making a critical error. He keeps taking his snorkel out of his mouth while he is underwater.
Oh no, that's a terrible idea.
Right. The traveler sees this and actually scolds him harshly for it.
Which is a fascinating social dynamic to observe.
Yes. Later on, Fersi tells the traveler, "Hey, you were a bit rough on me back there."
He was offended.
A little. But the traveler was legitimately worried about his physical safety. You can't just take a snorkel out of your mouth while completely submerged in rough, unpredictable ocean currents. You will drown.
Absolutely. The fact that they could have that friction is actually the most telling part of their dynamic.
How so?
Well, a harsh scolding, followed by a direct, honest response of, "You were too rough." It shows the incredibly accelerated depth of the relationship.
Because they didn't hold back.
Exactly. Think about your coworkers back home. You might spend years walking on eggshells around them, using corporate speak, avoiding direct confrontation at all costs.
Oh, yeah. Per my last email kind of stuff.
Right. But here, the traveler and Fersi bypassed all the superficial small talk and went straight to life-preserving accountability.
That's a great way to put it.
When physical safety is on the line, politeness evaporates. It's replaced by a much more profound form of care.
It's beautiful, really. Care disguised as a scolding.
Exactly.
And this perfectly transitions us into the next phase of the journey where the survival mode starts to fade and a new identity begins to emerge.
The islands.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're moving into November 30th through December 4th. The traveler says goodbye to Fersi, who heads back to the mainland, and our solo traveler goes manta ray diving.
Oh, manta rays are incredible.
And here, that swimming skill we talked about becomes major social currency. The traveler meets a couple of Australians on the dive boat, one of whom is a former water polo player.
So another strong swimmer.
Yeah, and they are absolutely blown away by the traveler's freediving technique. Even the professional diving instructor gives the traveler a thumbs up underwater.
It's the universal language of physical competence.
You don't even need to speak.
Exactly. When you share a highly specialized skill in a challenging environment, respect is instantaneous. You don't need a shared verbal language. The body mechanics do the talking.
So cool. So after the dive, the traveler's on a tight schedule, literally running to the dock to catch the 1 p.m. boat to the island of Nusa Lembongan.
A lot of boat hopping.
Yeah. And on this boat ride, we get this delightful, completely unexpected cultural crossover.
What happened?
The Indonesian staff working on the boat find out the traveler is Korean. Suddenly, it comes out that these local guys are massive fans of the K-pop group BTS.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right. And when the traveler casually mentions being from Daegu, which happens to be the hometown of BTS member V, the boat staff lose their absolute minds with excitement.
We're witnessing the raw globalization of soft power right there.
It's so funny to picture.
It really is. Pop culture is no longer just entertainment. It creates an immediate, visceral bridge of affinity across entirely different cultures.
They just instantly love the traveler.
Because for those Indonesian boat staff, this solo traveler wasn't just another random tourist holding a ticket. They were a living, breathing connection to a piece of art they deeply admired. The geography of Daegu suddenly bridged the gap with the waters of Bali.
It's such a pure, joyous moment, and the connections just keep accelerating.
Where to next?
On December 1st, the traveler takes another boat, this time heading to Gili Trawangan, or Gili T, as the backpackers call it.
Famous party island.
Oh, definitely. The boat ride itself is a party. They meet a lively group of Indian travelers playing music on a portable speaker, and 2 Romanian travelers named Alex and Ratari.
Okay, more names to remember.
Yep. Later that night, the travelers chilling when the Romanians send a video of themselves hanging out at a beach club.
An invitation.
Pretty much. The traveler hops on a bicycle, tracks the beach club down, and decides to completely surprise them.
How?
How do they say hello? The traveler climbs up a towering 5-meter diving platform and does a spontaneous, perfect backflip into the water right in front of them.
A literal leap of faith to cement a new friendship.
A literal leap. But this brings up a huge philosophical question for me. I look at this traveler, and I think about identity.
Okay, let's get into it.
Back home, you're defined by your constraints. Your job, your commute, your mortgage, your family obligations.
Very true.
You are a spreadsheet manager or an IT tech or a swimming coach. But on the Gili Islands, you are the person who does backflips off 5-meter platforms in the dark.
It's a completely different persona.
Exactly. You are the person who, on December 2nd, stops dead in the middle of the street just to play djembe drums with a guy named Jason from Australia and a group of random Mexican travelers.
Spontaneous drumming.
Yeah. So I have to ask you, Does this mean our identity back home is Beach, or is the vacation identity the fake one?
That is the core existential question of long-term travel. I would argue neither is fake, but they operate under entirely different parameters.
How so?
Back home, your identity is historical. It is built on years of accumulated context and societal expectations.
People expect you to act a certain way.
Exactly. On Gili Trawangan, your identity is entirely performative and deeply present. You are unburdened from your historical self.
Because nobody knows you.
Nobody knows you failed math in high school or that you went through a bad breakup last year. You only exist as the actions you are taking right in that exact second.
That is incredibly freeing.
It is.
And we see people taking this to the extreme on Gili Air over December 3rd and 4th. The traveler moves to this quieter island and meets Christian Antian, who becomes a massive central figure in the rest of this journal.
Okay, Christian Ertian.
They also meet Lily from Austria, who sits around telling wild stories about something called the Bushmen Festival.
That sounds intriguing.
It does.
Yeah.
And then they meet a group of French women who describe themselves as digital nomads. But these aren't your typical post-COVID remote workers. One of these French women has been a digital nomad for 15 years.
Wow.
15 years. I can't even fathom the logistics of that.
If we really pause and unpack the mechanics of what a 15-year nomadic lifestyle entails, it requires a complete structural severing of the return ticket mentality.
Right, because there is no return ticket.
Exactly. Most tourists view their trip as a temporary suspension of reality. The real world is waiting for them back in London or Tokyo.
Yeah, you eventually have to go back to work.
But for these women, the movement itself is the reality. They have to manage international taxes, visas, healthcare, and relationships while constantly shifting coordinates.
It sounds exhausting, honestly.
It is, but encountering people who have successfully opted out of the standard societal blueprint profoundly disrupts a conventional traveler's worldview.
It proves it's possible.
It proves that the 9 to 5 is an option, not a biological mandate.
It definitely impacts our travelers' sense of self, especially when they go out into the ocean again.
More diving.
Yes. The traveler goes diving with Christian Ian and his Swedish friend Emil. During the dive, our traveler spots a sea turtle that has become violently tangled in a piece of discarded rope.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is, but using their free diving skills, the traveler swims down and manages to rescue the turtle, delicately freeing it from the trap.
That's incredible.
Right. Between that heroic rescue, the effortless way they move through the water, and the way they are actively coaching Christian on how to use his equipment, Christian decides the traveler needs a new name.
A trail name, basically.
Exactly. He dubs the traveler Lamborghini.
Lamborghini. I love that.
Because of the sheer speed, sleekness, and skill in the water.
And there's the christening of the new avatar, Lamborghini. It's an identity forged not from a resume, but purely from physical grace and compassion observed in the wild.
But I know you were looking at the journal closely. As the expert, you must have noticed the subtle biological shift happening in the background of all this euphoria.
I did, the energy crash.
Yeah. Despite the backflips, the drumming, and being called Lamborghini, the traveler writes an incredibly self-aware entry on December 2nd.
What did they say?
They note that their energy is quietly, dangerously draining. They write that in tropical climates, you don't always feel the exhaustion immediately, but it is stalking you, waiting to catch up.
That is a highly astute physiological observation. The traveler is experiencing the masking effect of the tropical high.
The tropical high, explain that.
Well, the heat, the constant influx of novel social stimulation, the adrenaline of diving, and the physical exertion of cycling everywhere completely mask the central nervous system's fatigue.
So they don't even realize how tired they are.
Exactly. Cortisol and adrenaline are keeping them upright, but it's a massive sensory overload that requires active, intentional management. The body is keeping a ledger, and eventually the debt will be called in.
Which brings us to the next massive geographical and emotional shift in the trip. We are moving into December 5th through December 9th.
Leaving the Gilis.
Yeah. The traveler is now moving as a cohesive duo with Christian. They leave the tiny, contained ecosystem of the Gili Islands and take a public boat to Bangsal to explore the massive raw mainland of Lombok.
Lombok is huge compared to the Gilis.
Huge. Right at the port, they meet a traveler named Jonathan. Jonathan casually pulls out his travel documents and reveals he's carrying both a Swiss passport and an Israeli passport.
That's an interesting combination.
Very.
Yeah.
And our traveler and Christian have absolutely no fixed plan. So they just look at each other and say, hey, let's just follow Jonathan.
Just like that.
Just like that. They pay 200,000 rupiah each for a ride and head to Kuta Lombok
The absolute flexibility of that decision is the hallmark of advanced travel.
because they aren't tied down.
Exactly. When you don't anchor yourself with rigid, non-refundable hotel bookings, your entire itinerary can be dictated entirely by the gravity of interesting people.
And Jonathan is definitely interesting.
He is. His dual identity, representing both the staunch neutrality and precision of Switzerland, alongside the intense, complex geopolitical reality of Israel, fascinates the traveler.
It's just so unexpected.
It serves as yet another reminder of the incredibly diverse backgrounds that intersect on these specific backpacking routes.
Totally. And once they settle into Roy Homestay in Kuta Lombok, we see the traveler's musical talent transition from like a fun party trick into a literal currency of connection.
Oh, more drumming.
Yes. On the evening of December 5th, they can't find the specific live music cafe they were looking for, so they just wander into a place called Sushi Mania.
Okay.
The staff are friendly, there happens to be a drum kit sitting there, and the traveler just hops on.
Just takes over the drums.
Yeah, they start playing the drums to John Lennon's Imagine and Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. The traveler is drumming, people are dancing, the restaurant staff are pulling out their phones to record videos. It's electric.
That's amazing.
And then 2 days later, on December 7th, at Selong Belanak Beach, the traveler joins a local campfire.
Sounds chill.
It is, but they don't just sit and watch. The traveler actually uses their hands to give deep tissue massages to 5 of the local Indonesian guys hanging out at the fire.
Wait, really? That is a radical breakdown of the typical transactional tourist-local dynamic.
Right. Usually it's the other way around.
Exactly. Structurally, the local economy is designed so that the local serves the tourist. They pour the drinks, they drive the cars, they carry the bags.
Right.
Here, the tourist is providing the labor. They're providing the entertainment at the sushi restaurant, the music, and the physical, muscular relief of a massage at the beach.
It entirely flips the script.
It totally subverts the economic hierarchy. It levels the playing field into an exchange of pure, equal human interaction.
I'll love that. But hold on, because the universe is about to flex its sense of humor.
Oh boy, what happened?
On December 8th, the traveler and Christy Nunn move up the coast to Singgigi Beach. They decide to go into the big city, Mataram, and visit a massive, highly modern shopping mall to eat at a place called Haraku Ramen.
Okay, getting some city time.
Yeah. And out of the millions of people in Indonesia, who do they run into walking around the mall?
Don't tell me.
Alex and Rotari, the Romanians from the Gili Tea boat.
That is wild.
But wait, it gets crazier. Later that night, the traveler is swimming in a massive 74-meter pool back at their hotel. And who is there?
No way.
Peconi. One of the teenagers from Arizona they met 2 entire weeks prior, battling the rough waves of Uluwatu on a totally different island.
The mathematical improbability of that sequence of events is staggering.
Right. People in the travel community call this magic. They think the universe is pulling strings. But I'm skeptical.
You're not buying the magic.
Not entirely. I've heard you talk about the mechanics of travel before. Explain to me what is actually happening here. Is it fate or is it something else?
I love that you were challenging the mysticism of it because there's a very structural explanation.
Please hit me with it.
It feels like magic, but sociologically, it's what we call the funnel effect of backpacking infrastructure.
The funnel effect?
Yes. While Indonesia is massive, the specific corridors that cater to a certain budget, demographic, and travel style are actually quite narrow.
Ah, I see.
There are really only a few affordable ferry routes between Bali, the Gilis, and Lombok. There are only a handful of modern malls in Mataram that appeal to a Western tourist craving ramen.
So everyone is just taking the same path.
Precisely. You aren't experiencing fate. You are experiencing the mathematics of limited infrastructure. You are all moving through the same funnel at roughly the same speed.
Wow. Okay, that totally shatters the illusion, but it makes so much sense.
It's still a beautiful coincidence, but there's math behind it.
Definitely. But even if the meeting was mathematically probable, what they do next is profound.
What do they do?
On December 9th, Alex and Rotori join the traveler and Christian Anian for a highly memorable day. They all rent motorbikes and ride out into the jungle to see these massive Lombok waterfalls.
I bet those are stunning.
The journal notes the roads are brutal, and the sheer power of the water is more terrifying than anything the traveler has ever seen in Korea. It rains heavily.
A real adventure.
But after experiencing the raw, chaotic power of nature, they make a collective decision to head back into the city and visit the Great Mosque in Mataram.
This transition from the jungle to the mosque is perhaps the most profound cultural and psychological pivot in the entire journal.
It really is a massive gear shift. They arrive at the mosque, park their motorbikes in the vast underground lot, and are given temporary skirts to wear out of respect for the religious space.
Standard protocol for visitors.
Yeah. They enter this incredibly grand, towering Islamic architectural marvel. They are assigned a local guide, and they just stand there in the cavernous space, quietly observing the locals praying.
That sounds really peaceful.
And the guide begins explaining the core tenets of Islam. But he does it brilliantly. He explicitly compares Islamic values to Christianity, pointing out the shared reverence for Jesus as a prophet.
Emphasizing the common ground.
Exactly. Emphasizing that at its core, it is a religion of peace, designed to help these Western tourists bridge their own cultural understandings.
And we must look at the intellectual engagement of the group here.
Yeah, especially Rotari.
Right. Rotari, the Romanian traveler, doesn't just nod politely and take photos. She engages. She asks incredibly sharp, thoughtful, deeply intellectual questions to the guide.
She really wanted to understand.
She is actively testing her own theological endurance and trying to genuinely comprehend a worldview vastly different from her own European upbringing.
What absolutely blows my mind about this is the whiplash.
The contrast.
Think about the timeline. Just 3 days earlier, on December 6th, the traveler was at a chaotic house party and an EDM marathon festival.
A completely different universe.
Right. They were hanging out with rugged surf instructors, discussing life in Korea with a Swiss girl, while people drank cocktails around a swimming pool.
Total hedonism.
And now, 72 hours later, they are standing in a grand mosque discussing the nature of God, the mechanisms of peace, and comparative theology.
That juxtaposition is the ultimate, undeniable value proposition of long-term travel.
It really is.
Think about your daily life back home. Your environment is algorithmically and sociologically curated.
You mean we stay in our bubbles?
Yes. You interact with people who have similar jobs, similar socioeconomic statuses, and similar cultural backgrounds. Your brain is never truly shocked.
It's all very predictable.
But on the road, the algorithm is broken. You experience the absolute full spectrum of the human condition within a 3-day window.
From the club to the mosque.
You go from the primal, visceral, bass-heavy release of an EDM festival to the quiet, contemplative, centuries-old reverence of a grand mosque. It forcibly stretches your capacity for empathy.
I love that phrase. Forcibly stretches your empathy.
It rewires your brain to hold conflicting truths simultaneously in a way no textbook or documentary ever could.
And they end the day by taking an elevator up to a 99-meter observatory to look out over the city as the call to prayer echoes out. It's just a towering, deeply exotic, transcendent atmosphere.
What a way to end the day.
But the geography shifts again, and so does the psychology.
Right.
We are entering December 10th to the 13th.
Moving again.
The traveler heads back to the islands, hitting Gilitrangan one last time on the 10th. And that musical theme roars back to life.
More drumming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're at a live cafe. The band is absolutely incredible, and the traveler orders a simple lemon juice and just lets go. They start dancing.
Just feeding off the energy.
The crowd loves it. They get invited up onto the drums again, flawlessly playing Yellow by Coldplay, Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, and even singing some John Denver.
That is pure joy.
It's an expression of pure, unadulterated joy. Here, they meet a wonderful traveler from India named Shivani, and they later run into 2 Canadian girls they'd seen earlier in the trip, greeting them like old friends with cheek kisses at a club.
The traveler is operating at peak social fluidity at this moment.
They really are.
They have completely mastered the rhythm and the social currency of the island. They are no longer a guest, they are an active participant in the ecosystem.
But as you pointed out earlier, the island rhythm is exhausting, and the body finally demands a break.
The crash has to come.
On December 11th, Christian Brusid and the traveler take a boat to Padang Padang. They arrive in the pouring rain, hire a car, and drive up into the humid, enclosed jungle elevation of Ubud.
Ubud is so different, very green, very spiritual.
In the moment they arrive, the tone of the journal drastically changes. They check into a homestay, and the traveler explicitly notes that the architecture and the vibe look exactly like a place they had seen in a vivid dream.
That's eerie. In a good way.
Yeah, and the exhaustion finally catches them. They collapse in the afternoon and sleep straight through, a deep, unbroken sleep until 8 p.m.
The central nervous system is finally demanding its massive debt be paid. The cortisol has worn off.
Exactly. The traveler wakes up in the dark hearing this loud rushing sound, thinking it's been raining heavily for hours.
Was it rain?
No. They walk outside and realize the sound wasn't rain. It was a beautiful, natural waterfall built right into the homestay's garden.
Oh, how beautiful.
It's incredibly peaceful. The chaotic energy of the coast is gone, and this deeply peaceful, introspective environment sets the stage for December 12th. I call this day the Kretche Pool Confessional.
The Kretche Pool Confessional. The data in the journal shows this as a critical conversational pivot.
Yes. They meet up with Shivani again, the Indian friend they met back on Gili Tea. They do some touristy things first. They visit a luwak coffee plantation.
Ah, luwak coffee, which is an incredibly bizarre economic phenomenon if you break it down.
I don't actually know much about it. What is it?
For the listener who might not know, luwak coffee is made from coffee cherries that have been eaten, partially digested, and defecated by the Asian palm civet, a small jungle cat.
Wait, so it's poop coffee?
Essentially, yes. The biological fermentation process in the civet's stomach alters the chemical structure of the beans, removing the bitterness.
That is wild.
So tourists are paying premium prices for a biological anomaly, chemically altered animal droppings. It's a fascinating intersection of biology and luxury marketing.
It really is strange when you put it like that. So after exploring the plantation, they head to the Kretche Pool. The traveler, being the Lamborghini they are, swims a massive 400 meters, getting so intense that the staff actually have to tell them to literally splash less.
Lamborghini has no chill.
None at all. But after that massive physical exertion, the three of them, the traveler, Christianian, and Shivani, settle into the warm water, and they have this intensely deep conversation.
What did they talk about?
They talk extensively about life, the complexities of romantic relationships, the nature of love, and what it physically and emotionally takes to travel in a place as intense as India.
That's a heavy conversation.
The traveler even jokes that if they ever did a long backpacking trip to India, it would be so intense they might end up married by the end of it.
It's highly significant that the traveler explicitly notes this as the longest, most honest, and most vulnerable conversation about relationships they had during the entire 3-week trip.
It really stands out in the journal.
We have to analyze the mechanisms here. Why is it that the most honest conversations about your messy personal life often happen in a swimming pool in the Balinese jungle with someone you just met a few days ago?
See, I struggle with this. I hear this and I think, isn't it just playing therapist without real stakes?
How do you mean?
If you don't have to deal with the messy consequences of a person's daily life, isn't it easy to just dump your trauma in a pool and mistake that venting for a lifelong bond? Is it real intimacy? Or is it a vacation illusion?
It's a brilliant pushback. You are questioning the structural integrity of the bond.
Yeah, exactly.
Psychologists refer to this dynamic as the stranger on a train phenomenon.
Okay, what's that?
When you speak to someone who exists entirely outside of your normal social network like Shivani, there is immense psychological safety.
Because she doesn't know anyone from their real life.
Right. Shivani doesn't know the traveler's ex-partners, their family dynamics, or their coworkers. She has no preconceived notions and, more importantly, no vested interest in the outcome of the traveler's life.
So there's no judgment.
Therefore, the traveler can be radically honest without any fear of judgment or social consequence back home. It might not be a structurally enduring intimacy, but in that specific moment, the vulnerability is 100% genuine.
That makes a lot of sense.
Add in the physical environment, the warm water acting as a sensory relaxant, the enclosed jungle canopy, and the psychological defenses naturally lower.
Okay, the environment playing a role makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I actually noticed a clear geographical pattern in the journal.
Oh, like what?
When they were on the coastal areas, Uluwatu, Nusa Penida, the Geethlas, the conversations were entirely external.
Right, about logistics.
Yeah, they talked about survival, avoiding scams, surfing, freediving techniques, and where the next party was.
Very outward focused.
But the second they move inland, up into the higher elevation and humidity of the Ubud jungle, the conversations turn inward. They talk about dreams, aging, deep relationship analysis, and global trauma.
Geography absolutely dictates our psychological bandwidth.
It really does.
The ocean demands external focus. You have to watch the waves, monitor your breath, and navigate the physical currents, or you will get hurt.
You can't be daydreaming in those waves.
Exactly. The jungle, however, with its static humidity, enclosed green canopies, and relative silence, forces an internal focus.
It slows you down.
It engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes rest, digestion, and deep introspection.
And that introspection manifests beautifully the very next day, December 13th.
What happened on the 13th?
They visit a massive waterfall. The sheer violent power of the water is overwhelming. While there, the traveler notes a highly profane sign nearby that says, fuck you, fuck me.
Wow, okay. Very direct.
Normally, the traveler writes they would never, ever take a photo with something so crass. But Christian Nation urges them to break out of their shell, and they take the photo, turning it into this hilarious, uncharacteristic memory.
A little character growth there.
But the profound moment comes right after. They are sitting down eating pizza, and they observe an older British couple sitting nearby.
Just watching them.
Yeah. They strike up a brief chat and find out the couple are school principals on a long holiday heading to Australia next. And our traveler just sits there, watching them eat together, and wonders internally, will I be able to age as gracefully as they are?
That is a moment of profound psychological projection.
It felt very heavy in the journal.
The traveler is looking at this older, established couple and seeing a potential future self. They are measuring their current chaotic, beautiful, backflipping youth against the quiet, steady dignity of a lifelong partnership traveling the world.
It's beautifully put.
It's the jungle environment forcing them to contemplate their own mortality and life trajectory.
It's incredibly poignant. And that night, the introspective energy yields one more incredible connection.
Where did they go?
They go to the Why Not Bar, which has a freestyle band playing. The leader invites anyone from the crowd up to the stage.
Let me guess. Lamborghini strikes again.
You know it. The traveler raises their hand, gets on the drum kit, and plays Coldplay's Yellow flawlessly.
Incredible.
After the set, riding that high, the traveler ends up chatting with a group of young British women in the crowd. It turns out, incredibly, that two of them had lived in Cheongju, South Korea, working as English teachers in 2021.
Wait, 2021?
Right during the absolute height of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Exactly. And the traveler instantly empathizes. They note in the journal that if living in Korea during those strict COVID lockdowns was hard for the locals, it must have been unimaginably isolating, terrifying, and lonely for foreign teachers trapped away from their families.
That is a very deep realization to have at a bar.
They bond deeply over this shared global trauma, halfway across the world, sitting in a bar in Bali.
It is a powerful reminder that our scars, whether they are physical or societal, are often our strongest points of connection. Shared trauma creates an instant shorthand for empathy.
Which brings us to the final act of this incredible journey.
It's almost over.
We are moving into December 14th through the 16th. The traveler and Christian Jensen leave the jungle and move to Canggu, checking into the Mag Canggu guest house.
Canggu is very different from Ubud. Very modern.
And this is where the re-entry process begins. They're thrust back into hyper-modernity. While waiting in the lobby to check in, they strike up a conversation with two Turkish brothers, Tintar and Serkan.
Okay, who are they?
It turns out these guys are former ballet dancers who attended an arts university, ended up moving to Qatar to run a restaurant, and now run a mystery-themed YouTube channel with over 2 million subscribers.
The modern nomad comes in many bizarre, highly successful, and deeply unconventional variations.
Seriously. I mean, ballet dancers turned Qatari restaurateurs turned mystery YouTubers? You can't write that.
It sounds made up.
And how does our traveler bond with these million-subscriber Turkish influencers? By promising to cook them dinner.
A home-cooked meal.
Later that night, the traveler is standing in the communal guest house kitchen, cooking 5 packs of shin ramyeon, carefully adding bean sprouts, mushrooms, and shrimp, feeding everyone.
We have to look at the biology of communal eating here.
Oh, please do.
Cooking a meal like ramen for strangers is a brilliant sociological grounding mechanism. When human beings share a hearth and break bread, our brains release oxytocin and our cortisol levels drop.
It feels very homey.
Exactly. It hacks our evolutionary biology. It completely cuts through the modern pretension of subscriber counts, wealth, and status. It is a primal act of service that forces intimacy and equality.
And earlier that day, before the ramen, there was the absolute sensory explosion of the Canggu clubs.
The party scene.
The traveler and Christian Antian walk to Atlas, which bills itself as the largest club in the world, and then head to Finn's Beach Club. The sheer scale of these places is staggering.
Massive venues.
We are talking ultra-high-end LED displays towering into the sky, live drummers wearing cylindrical masks, and thousands of people moving to the base.
Sounds overwhelming.
But the traveler describes it beautifully. Not as aggressive or overwhelming, but as EDM that lifts the mood in a healthy, collective way. They're actively marveling at the technical and sensory design of the space.
What we're analyzing here is the psychological re-entry phase of the journey.
Re-entry to normal life.
Yes. The traveler's transitioning from the raw, untamed nature of the Lombok waterfalls and the quiet introspection of Ubud back into highly engineered, hyper-modern societal structures.
Getting used to civilization again.
The massive clubs act as a sensory bridge, preparing their nervous system for the inevitable return to the fast-paced, developed world of Korea.
And nothing screams hyper-modern engineering quite like their activity on December 15th.
What did they do?
The traveler goes to Obsidian 2, which is an ultra-modern, high-level fitness and recovery gym. The entrance fee alone is steep 440,000 rupiah just for a day pass.
Wow, that's not cheap.
They go hard. They train heavy squats, bench presses, brutal sled pushes. But the most fascinating sociological exchange happens afterward, in the sauna.
What happened in the sauna?
The traveler sits down on the wooden benches and ends up in a deep, extensive conversation with a German influencer about European sauna culture in Bergen.
Birken, the legendary, notoriously exclusive techno club in Berlin.
Yeah, I've heard it's impossible to get into.
We need to explain this context to the listener. Bergen isn't just a nightclub. It is a cultural institution with a notoriously opaque, psychologically brutal door policy.
Like they just reject people for no reason.
Pretty much. The bouncers reject people arbitrarily to curate a very specific, egalitarian, judgment-free ecosystem inside.
That's so intense.
To discuss the sociological architecture of an underground Berlin techno bunker while sweating in a luxury high-end Balinese sauna is the peak of globalization.
It really is. And right after that heated discussion, the ultimate physical shock, an 8 to 11 degrees Celsius cold plunge.
Oh, that's freezing.
The traveler bravely steps in, but admits in the journal they couldn't even last 20 seconds before scrambling out.
I don't blame them.
Afterward, they recover by eating a bibimbap loaded with 60 grams of protein and end the day teaching a free-spirited Swedish artist named Tiandra how to swim in the guest house pool.
It is a state of total optimized flow.
What do you mean by flow?
The traveler is seamlessly exchanging physical knowledge in the pool, cultural knowledge in the sauna, and culinary knowledge in the kitchen. They have reached the apex of the travel experience.
But all trips, no matter how profound, must end. December 16th is departure day.
The hardest day.
And the emotional weight of this final 24 hours is incredibly heavy. First, the traveler meets up with Agnesia at the Beach Walk Shopping Center.
Who is Agnesia?
She's a local woman they met briefly the day before. Over sushi and acai bowls, the conversation takes a serious turn. Agnesia explicitly offers to be the traveler's girlfriend.
Wow.
She asks him to come visit her in Jakarta in January.
That is an incredibly intense, rapid escalation of a micro-relationship.
It really is. But the traveler declines. They gently cite the logistics of long distance, but explicitly note in the private journal that 80% of the real reason is the profound cultural and religious barrier, as Agnesia is Muslim.
This is a crucial moment of maturity.
You think so?
Absolutely. It shows the limits of the travel mindset.
Yeah.
The traveler has spent 3 solid weeks saying yes to absolutely everything.
Yes to backflips, yes to boat trips.
Exactly. Yes to playing drums in front of crowds. But here, faced with a genuine romantic proposition that carries real-world weight, the traveler recognizes the practical limits of reality.
They had to pump the brakes.
The intoxicating magic of a vacation does not magically erase the immense logistical, cultural, and theological complexities of a lifelong partnership. They possess the emotional intelligence to set a firm boundary.
Navigating those boundaries is so incredibly tricky. Because right after setting that firm, logical boundary with Agnesia, the traveler completely surrenders to the platonic love of 2 other people.
Oh.
First is the goodbye with Christian Holonian. They meet at a Singaporean restaurant for one last meal. Christian Holonian, showing his massive heart, makes a dramatic, crying scene to the restaurant staff.
Oh.
Yeah, dramatically announcing that his dear friend is going back to his hometown. When they finally step outside to part ways, they share a deeply emotional, tearful hug.
That's a real brotherhood.
They shout, "Let's shit out of here," which is their hilarious, crude inside joke from the trip. And in the journal, the traveler writes something incredibly moving.
What did they write?
They write that Christian Axian taught them Love, joy, recovery, relationships, and how to truly chill.
That is so beautiful. The brotherhood forged between those two men is arguably the most significant artifact of the entire 3 weeks.
It really was.
They shared physical risk on the scooters, physiological exhaustion on the dives, and profound emotional revelation. It is a bond forged in the fires of liminal space.
And then we get to the grand finale.
Oh.
The absolute perfect bookend to the trip.
How does it end?
The traveler had tentatively planned to meet Jasmine, the local Indonesian woman they met way back at the Sanur night market in the first few days.
Oh, right. From the beginning.
They share live locations on WhatsApp, finally meet up at a Pizza Hut, and share mocktails. When the clock runs out and it's finally time to go to the airport, Jasmine and her siblings don't just call him a taxi. They don't just say goodbye at the restaurant. They put him on the back of their motorbikes. They ride him in a protective, loving convoy through the Bali traffic all the way to the airport.
That is incredible.
And they don't just drop him at the drop-off curb. They actually park the bikes, pay for the parking fee out of their own pockets, and walk him all the way to the glass doors of the International Departures entrance, just to say a proper goodbye.
It is an act of pure, unadulterated grace.
It makes you want to cry.
Think about the economics of that. They asked for absolutely nothing in return. They simply wanted to ensure that a traveler who had shown genuine respect, curiosity, and kindness to their home country felt utterly cherished upon leaving it.
It really is.
It is the ultimate antidote to the scammer from day one.
Even after passing through security, sitting in the sterile airport lounge, the connections refuse to stop.
Of course not.
The traveler sits next to an Indian newlywed couple who currently live in France, working in IT and for Evian Water. They chat easily about the costs of traveling in India, beautifully closing the loop on the recurring theme of Indian connections and conversations throughout the trip.
A perfect circle.
So let's zoom out. What an absolutely monumental journey. From the rough, boat-smashing waves of Nusa Penida to the profound, paradigm-shifting theological discussions in the Lombok Mosque to the deep, tearful brotherhood forged on the Gilis and in the jungles of Ubed.
It really covers the entire human experience.
From a vulnerable mark for a scam driver on day 1 to a beloved friend receiving a protective local escort on day 21.
It is a stunning testament to the resilience and the immense capacity of the human spirit when it is placed in an open, unstructured environment.
Totally.
It proves that when we are stripped of our routines, our default setting is connection.
It really is. And it leaves me with one final lingering thought. I want you, the listener, to think about the invisible armor you wear every single day.
We all wear it.
Think about the daily routines we build to protect ourselves from the unpredictable nature of other people. We wear noise-canceling headphones on the train. We stare intently at our phones in the elevator to avoid eye contact. We build these massive invisible walls.
It's how we cope with modern life.
But this travel journal proves something undeniably powerful. It proves that when you are forced to strip away those routines, when you have to share a scooter to survive the road, when you cook a cheap meal in a communal kitchen, or when you take a literal leap off a 5-meter platform in the dark, you realize the world isn't just full of hostile strangers.
It's not.
It is full of unwritten friendships, incredible stories, and profound wisdom, all just waiting for you to say a simple hello.
So the provocative question I want to leave you with is this. What if you didn't need to buy a plane ticket to Indonesia to experience this?
Oh, I like that.
What if you treated your own city, your own neighborhood, the exact same way this traveler treated Bali for just 1 week?
That's a challenge.
What if you assumed the person sitting next to you at the local coffee shop wasn't a stranger to be avoided, but simply a friend whose backstory you hadn't learned yet?
Because you never know. If you let your guard down just a little bit, that stranger might just end up being the person walking you to the departure gate of your next great adventure. Keep diving deep, stay curious, and we'll catch you next time.